So it'll be interesting to see how this pans out.
It's great that you're involved in this project.
Well, that's the other thing. Because the ramifications for, I think, I mean, Andrew's on the west side of the South Downs National Park. So there, I think in time we're going to see a convergence of the AONBs with the national parks. And the national parks have true planning powers, which makes the AONB officials very jealous. So I think you can see how they might converge. So you can, the South Downs National Park has got several AONBs wrapped around it. Plus it's got London looming over, Brighton, Hastings, all of these marvellous towns and cities. So you can see how if you can start to demonstrate in a low quality soil upland site, if you can grow food on that, it has great prospects for growing of hemp within the national park to produce work. It could have a huge impact generally on how land use in the future is thought about. Because these are delicate, difficult environments to work in. But if you can get a university in London, central London, to go out into the woods to learn from local people and give information back, then it starts to make it more possible to get funding to generate R&D projects.
And makes amazing research.
This is what I think with this project, the Phoenix project, we could see. There's a great dream that we could set up a timber construction brain in Lewis. Quite often they're in rural areas, or they're in forests in other countries. They've done a lot of work with the French, Normandy and Picardy, Germany's got their own program. They tend to be in woodlands. How wonderful would it be to set one up in the middle of the town like this?
Not so integrated into the network.
Yeah.
Oh, you're fascinating. I'm going to go to bed. Thank you.
You see this quite interesting bigger impact.
Yeah.
You see it as from a philosophical point of view, like an agrarian, self-sufficient way of life, if you like, which is contrary to the way of life most people live.
Yeah.
You talk about the M21, you know, the voracious life that we all lead, or people lead, you know, to get faster and faster to a place, and then when they get there, they don't know what to do.
Yeah.
You know, the importance of getting there actually isn't as important as you think it is.
Yeah.
And you know, I can see with my eyes, you know, faster and faster cars being manufactured, and I ask myself this veracity, if you like, to get somewhere, and they don't know what to do when they've got there. So, do you see this as a kind of more philosophical, almost concern? It's interesting because you know, we've got the microchip now. We're not living in, if you like, William Morris's day.
No.
But we're still in that, we're still basically human beings that need to commune with nature, that they need that spiritual input.
Well, this is it.
So there's that kind of bigger philosophical argument.
I mean, the Woodland Enterprise Centre wouldn't have happened without that desire to innovate. Take what is a traditional material that people think they know, and get people to think about it in a different way.
Yeah.
But also trying to get people to think about the production of that material in a different way. Penny and David talking about what they're doing. This is what's so enchanting. This is a small woodland, but yet something magical as that workshop pops up. This is happening all over the place. These guys are working on amazing projects, and they are philosophical. Plato and Aristotle would get it straight away. There's one of the small workshops on this site. The woman who is managing the site, she's got 2 kids to look after. She's got a husband working in a woodland. She has just set up with a school friend an alternative healthcare business in one of the small workshops. So it's aromatherapy, hydrotherapy, osteopathy, acupuncture, yoga, all contained within this 4-meter by 12-meter by 2-story box. When you go into the building, it's like going to an amusement park. Every room is different than the other. There's music, they're taking lavender from local farms, creating aromatherapy products. But the extraordinary thing about it is that they set this business up from scratch. And within days of opening up, they've got a waiting list. And the reason is because the word has got around so quickly that people going to this building aren't coming off a busy high street in town, going in to be treated, only to walk back onto busy high street and cancel out all the treatment. They specifically took the bay window on the woodland end of the building and set it up with chairs, and they demand that all of the patients go and sit in that room for half an hour. If they don't do that, they're forced to go into the woodland for a walk. I took a fellow staff member who's from Qatar, who was down on the site. We did a staff away day. He kept hanging around, and I eventually said, "Why are you hanging around?" And he said, "Because I want you to take me on a tour through the woodland." We took 10 steps into the woodland, and he froze in his tracks. And he said, "Steve, this is the first time I've ever been in a woodland." Just then, on cue, 4 muntjacs dashed in front of him. He leapt 10 feet in the air. He said, "What the hell were those?" I explained to him, he said, "That is the first wildlife I've ever seen in my life." So this is what we're dealing with. The Chinese students we've got are shocked. When you take them down there, they just melt. Some of the English students do as well. And the German ones. So it's got this impact like no other.
I wish there was...
The Tesco bag, I believe, is the issue.
But it's an hour from central London. That's the magical thing about it. 15 minutes from Hastings. 20 minutes. An hour from Brighton. So yeah, getting back to that question, it's a really good question. Because if you put it in the context of the South Downs National Park, and you look at the legacy of timber around that, and you know full well this was a forested region not that long ago.
Yes.
And sure, people want to keep some of the South Downs open, but you look at the North Downs, and there's a timber culture up there that is really powerful, and it stretches from Kent to...
There is actually kind of, what actually constitutes happiness, what life is about, and I'm thinking about the Maoris. They spend the same time they're traveling with, they spend the same time resting, because their soul, they see it as their soul is moving over that period of time, and they need to rest for that same period of time to actually get their soul back.
Yes.
And I think that's really interesting, because we live in such a voracious life. We're always traveling now. People travel where they don't give themselves time to actually digest what they've actually done. You know what I mean?
Let's see what happens with this lockdown.
I think lockdown is interesting. The pandemic is interesting because it's made people rethink.
It's made people wake up.
It's forced people to rethink.
It really has. That place got booked up immediately, and partly I think it's driven by COVID. A lot of people said, I don't want to go into London anymore. I don't want to go to Brighton anymore. So they're looking for an escape. Sorry, Liz.
I have a question. You mentioned that you got some products from Estonia and then started to import their technology. I went to Romania, and I noticed that their view about trees and where they use trees is absolutely extraordinarily different to ours. So, can you tell me about bringing back Estonian influence?
Well, without question, because you have to think of Estonia as being a fringe Scandinavian nation, part of the Baltic setup. They trade with each other, like Mediterranean countries would trade with each other. So that's what they're doing. So when I say Estonian panels, most of the timber in those panels is Swedish.
Okay.
So it's moving. But our very first building on the site of Estonian panels arrived on one flatbed. It took 2.5 days to drive from Estonia through Germany. They were going to ship it, but they kept getting ships frozen in the ice. So it sort of messes around with the construction program. So they ended up going by road transport. They ended up on site 10 o'clock in the morning, an hour earlier than we thought. We trained the panels off the lorry within about 45 minutes. The driver then got onto his phone and had a return delivery within 15 minutes. And that was a woman who set up a program.
But didn't you say that you were starting to produce panels
Yes.
on that
This cuts right across every presentation tonight. So the Estonians use what they know and what they love, softwood. It's pine, no question.
Yeah.
Here, we've got a complete spectrum of possibilities. Ash dieback's producing a lot of ash. Beech, which our German friend said he doesn't like, fair enough, but beech is an amazing timber. So all of this stuff could be used within these panels. So that's what we're looking to do with the Phoenix project, is set up a manufactory. So Matt Blackwell was down here really scouting out the arch enemy of all of these panels, which is petrol-based insulation. So Flinwell Park has got solvent-based insulation in it. It's the high end of chemicals, or lack of chemicals. So immediately, Duncan Baker Brown was able to show Matt a block of mycelium insulation. So that is a company based in London. At UCL, at the Bartlett, we use the engineers and the architects to develop an R&D program. The government has now got funding because it's attached to the South Downs National Park. They want to showcase innovation within the national parks and the AONDs to start with. So this could trigger a renaissance in forestry, in agriculture. But they're looking desperately for quick projects. We've got one right here, 650 houses to go up. And what Bill was talking about earlier is that the timber supply is here. It's just trying to get the economics right. So if Jonathan Smales can find a way of getting people like William and their crew to get involved in setting up panel manufactories, we've got the sheds, we've got the space, we could transport timber through Cantonese Sussex up the Ouse and not bring it on road. So you can see how this starts to unravel, and it develops a bigger picture. Somewhere in there, my gut feeling, watching how Matt and Chris built that project, is that it's all about telling, excuse my language, the UK construction industry to fuck off, because they're stopping any sort of innovation. We're desperately trying to get the 3 houses certified as a building type in timber. They are putting one hurdle after another in front of us because the brickies and the concrete companies do not like it. They see all of these new innovations, so hempcrete, rammed earth, green out construction as being major threats because it's creeping into the housing industry. So with this volume of housing, it should be able to trigger an economic example. This is so beautiful. It's incredible to see that. And that's what these events are about, getting people together to be able to...
You know that zero culture as part of each team, and they've been developing assets.
Yeah.
Working on not very far yet. So.
Yeah, there are problems with all of these things, but that's just things to get over. Yeah. This is what the South Downs is desperate for. It could be really wonderful. Earth construction. Thomas here, he's building stuff up in Norfolk, using timber grown in Norfolk. Pretty standard pine. But he's got experience with Bretschall, old timber construction, blueness. So this is the sort of information, all of us responsible for getting all these people together. So trying to get all of this stuff linked into the project would be wonderful. The houses are tough, but all the commercial space, there's a freedom in there you don't get with houses. You can use whatever you want in any way you want to. So that's where it could become a really powerful showcase. And the skill in this room alone, the knowledge, is colossal.
What did you think of Gordon and I talking about PSW in Southampton, then kind of contra that the potential for something for not a factory or manufacturing facility on the scale of PSW in Southampton, but of some scale which is producing manufacturing locally sourced within whatever kilometre radius.
It's about
more south.
The thing is, does anybody know the series called Heimat, a German series made in the 80s? from a rural village in Germany between 1919 and mid-80s. There's the most beautiful scene in there where a man working in machinery in 1925 has got a box. It's just arrived, beautifully wrapped in this box. He opens it up. It's a piece of machinery to go on the machine that had broken down. The machine was built in England. He opens this up and he looks at this and he rolls it around in his hands and he says, nobody builds of the quality that the English do. This is Germany. This is what Thomas was explaining. Is that the Germans turned themselves around by saying, we are not just going to manufacture things, we're going to manufacture the best things. And lo and behold, we've got BMW, we've got all these amazing companies that just go from strength to strength to strength. Woodlands that are owned and operated by 6 generations of one family. Planted the trees 6 generations ago. They manage them, they produce the machinery and they make it better because the Scandinavians, the Canadians, produce a competing machine and they don't stand still. So this is what we've got to do. And I just think it's possible to do this. It's just trying to get the funding. That is a really hard thing in Britain, is getting that R&D funding. But it's starting to come forward, I think. We'll see.
Okay, on that very hopeful note, thank you so much, Steve, and it worked out with your presentation, which is great.
Yeah, that was lucky.
Thank you, Kenny and David. Thank you, Nick. Thank you all for staying. I hope you don't have too long journeys back to where you're heading. And some of you, I guess, who are Louisians, maybe I'll see you over the weekend if you're going to a certain other part of this inner city, town, district. But it's been fantastic food for thought, and there's all sorts of potential there, I thought. All sorts of potential to be pioneered. Thank you all.